Pace?
Dick Pace, he went in the Navy in 1941.
Right out of college.
And he went through flight school, got his wings, and then he was an instructor, and then he transitioned to the F6F Hellcat. And then they sent him out to the Pacific.
This is myself in 1945. This was on Saipan, and the airplane was an F6F5 Hellcat in Fighting Squadron 92. I'm 90 now, but when I was just a little kid, about maybe 10 or 12 years old, we had the Great Depression, and we had 25% unemployment then, and there was not much federal programs to do anything for it, but we made it out all right.
And to what do you owe such fitness?
I could say clean living, but I'd be lying. The Hellcat. You put your hand in it, and you put your foot in the step. You just pick up your leg and get up on the wing and go in the airplane. This was such an easy plane to fly. A beginner could fly it. A very stable, but wonderful performance. I mean, it was just a great airplane. And the Hellcat shot down about 2/3 of all the Japanese planes that were shot down by our entire Navy and Marine Corps. It shot down something like about 5,000 airplanes. This was our air superiority fighter of World War II.
And how did you eject from this? Did you have to climb out?
We didn't have an ejection. We just had to unstrap and climb out.
With the parachute on?
Oh, you better have it on. It wouldn't do any good otherwise.
And
yeah, we had a parachute, and under the parachute was a little one-man life raft, like about the size of a wash tub. And then we had the Mae West life jacket, and on it we had shark repellent and a chemical that would make a dense orange smoke, and then another chemical called dye marker that would make a green stain in the water so you could be readily observed from a searching aircraft.
So sharks were also a problem in the...
Well, I think the shark repellent was more for the pilot's morale than the sharks. Some people thought they actually attracted sharks, but it's the only thing you had, so that's what you had. Here we have the guns. We had 6 .50 caliber Browning machine guns, and they were electrically heated automatically so that they would always operate dependably. And each gun had 400 rounds, which is quite a lot of shooting you can do. This is a real Japanese Zero, shot down in the Southwest Pacific, and then later recovered and restored. But the Zero was the Japanese frontline fighter when the war began, and came to our forces as a very nasty surprise as how good it was. It was a very fine airplane, and they achieved its stunning performance mostly by saving weight every place they could, and it was just as light as a feather. But I believe our strategy was better because the airplanes were stronger and they could take more gunfire. We had better guns than they did, and we learned how to fight them more effectively by not trying to engage in a turning contest. The pilots that flew the kamikazes didn't even have to know how to land the thing, and they just filled it up with fuel and put a big bomb in it and told them to follow the leader and crash it into the target. And they didn't know how to fight with the airplane. They just knew how to be a kamikaze. It really is a very difficult thing to oppose effectively. They were not saying too much about it at the time, but they were doing enormous damage to our aircraft carriers, which were the primary target. And they only started doing this after we captured the Philippines, and then they formed the kamikazes, and they were very dangerous and effective. We were, I don't know if we were told officially implied, but it was our job to stop those guys from hitting those carriers if we had to crash them ourselves. But, and I think there were several cases of pilots that maybe out of ammunition that had flown into the back of a kamikaze and chopped up the tail of it with his airplane, with his propeller, which would, of course, make him crash into the sea. It seems that after the war, there was a Marine fighter pilot who flew the Corsairs, in Japan for some kind of reunion. He said, the Japanese said, I was a kamikaze pilot. And the Marine said, he wanted to say something nice to his new friend and said the first thing that popped in his mind. He said, well, that's nice. He said, do you fellas ever have any squadron reunions?
He's a fighter pilot. Now, he don't look like much of a warrior, but he's a fighter pilot from World War II. Okay?
Nice to see you all. Thank you for coming.
Does life seem very mundane when you come home?
In a lot of ways it does, but after I got out, I looked for more exciting things I could do. Nothing like as exciting as diving straight down on a target from 20,000 feet and seeing them get bigger in your gun sight. But I took up sports car racing, and I took up spearfishing, and things like that would maybe give you an adrenaline rush from time to time. About 5 years ago, my wife gave me a flight in an SMG. I went out here to the museum and got back my old flying suit. I donated it to them, and I got back my dog tags out of the jewel box. But I hadn't flown it for 60 years. I had flown it when I was 25 and flew when I was 85, 85. Here's a picture of that flight. And I went out, and when the man came with the airplane, I didn't just get in the back and ride it. I got in the front, and I could fly it. And he said, as quick as we got
So
up...
you actually got to fly the plane?
I didn't just fly it. Let me tell you what happened. He said when we got up in the air, I'll take off some landings, but after that you can do anything you want to. So I went up there, and I did some wing overs. And then slow rolls, get a little speed and pick up the nose and roll over. And loops, dive it to pick up a little speed and come up and over the top. And when I got upside down, it was always my practice to give a little forward stick. And a wing over is a very graceful thing you can do with an airplane. It's kind of like going back and forth with a swing. You pull it up in a climbing turn, turning just to the same amount of bank as you turn, so that at 45 degrees you bank 45, and at 90 you're 90 degrees, and right there the plane's about to stall, and you touch that bottom rung, and she just swings down, and goes back up, and does it again, and you do it back and forth, and it was just like old times. Well, of us, the three old timers, the plane, myself, and the flight suit.
Yes.
The flight suit was the best of it all.
But the gentleman that you went up with, he told us afterwards, I don't remember just how he worded it, but I think he said, that old man can fly it better than I ever could.
When you shake hands, that's hard to do it right. You got to do three things at the same time.
Yes, sir.
And there's one more thing that you might do that I ain't not able to do. You got to try to remember the name.
That's hard.
That's hard. Yeah. Well, I think every young man needs to get out from under his mother's loving care and face the world. He's going to have to do it sooner or later, and to have to be somewhere on time and have to do what somebody tells him and keep clean and do his best. And if you try hard, you'll improve, and if you do bad, your life will get worse. Those are pretty good lessons. I think a little military service is good. In fact, I had to go to military school when I was in high school because I think I needed a little straightening out, as the word goes, but it didn't hurt me to have to mind orders and keep my room clean. And I'm on the record, and I don't want to go too far, but all I can say is I'm glad I came up when I did. And this was a different country then, and I'm proud of my country, but I liked it better the way it used to be, I think.